Candida Mente, podcast attorno al project management realizzato dal branch Lombardia del Project Management Institute, Northern Italy Chapter.
Welcome to everybody and welcome back to our podcast listeners. I am Valerio Casalini, volunteer of branch Lombardia of Northern Italy Chapter of PMI. This episode is in English because we have an international speaker. I have the honor to interview the world's leading champion of project management and strategy implementation, Antonio Nieto Rodriguez. Antonio is the creator of concepts such as the hierarchy of purpose and the project manifesto. In addition, he has been awarded the title of Thinker of the Month by the prestigious Thinkers 50, who identifies the most influential management thinkers in the world. We will talk with Antonio about the evolution of project manager profession and how it is affected by the great technological innovations of present years. But first of all, I would like to ask to Antonio a personal presentation. Please.
Hi, Valerio. Hi, everybody. First, it's a pleasure to be here in this podcast. I know you're looking for new ways to share knowledge, to connect people around projects, project management, PMI. So I'm very appreciative of what you're doing in the branch in Lombardia. And so a personal presentation is, well, I've been working in project management for the last almost 25 years. And my goal has been probably for the last 15 years to try to first understand the value of projects and second that the executives, the outside stakeholders understand what we do, that they appreciate, that they see strategic. And that has been my goal, my research, my writing, my speaking. So it's a bit different. I usually don't talk to project managers. They are experts already. I talk to people who don't understand project management. That has been my big passion, and that's where I focus.
So the first question I have for you is, according to your opinion, to your experience, which is the effect that the big changes, technological change, and also organizational change that we are facing during these years have on our project manager profession?
Very good question. For me, we've all heard about all these big disruptions. We talk about artificial intelligence. We talked before about agile. We talk about robots and so on. So these ones are very well known. We know how to kind of understand them and to address them and some of the impact they will have. But I think, and that's my research of the past 2 years that I've been working for my next book, is there's a very, very important disruption that is happening today and that people have not talked about that. And that disruption is what I call the project revolution. What does it mean? It means that work, the way we do work, the way organizations structure themselves, carry activities, do the work, is going to be very different than what we've seen in the past 100 years, which was often very hierarchical. We all had departments and functions in departments, which created silos. So that has been very, very good for 100 years. But this new disruption, what I call the project revolution, says that most of the work going forward, and it's already happening in some industries, is project-based. So meaning that projects will have a much bigger weight in organizations. They will become priority, not second or third. The way companies are organized will be project-based. I recently heard that IBM will not use job descriptions anymore, but they will just use project roles to allocate to the people. So I think that the future for projects and project managers is great. There will be tons, millions of projects. But what I also think is that project managers will need to change. Project management will need to adapt. Project management has been a very successful methodology framework for the past 50 years. But it's too complicated for people who are not experts. Project management was developed by engineers for engineers. So it's extremely detailed and very technical. What I think organizations, students, politicians who want to implement change, they need to use project management techniques which are a bit simpler. So I think the future is great for project managers. It has never been as great as it will be in the next 5-10 years. The opportunity is huge, but like I was saying before, Valerio, is that the change on our side, it's also expected.
So, thinking to your consideration about the simplification of project tools and of project techniques, consider that most of the listeners of our podcast are PMI certified, so they have a knowledge, they know the tools that are used by the project manager to deal with their professional activity. So considering this and considering the new challenges that you have described, so the project revolution, as you have defined this change, what do you think that project managers also think to project managers that have a certification, so already have a competence in this area, should do to improve their skills, to improve their knowledge or their methods in order to deal with the project revolution that you have described? I mean, all the type of skills, so both their skills, maybe new techniques, or more simplified techniques, communication, and soft skills also. So any new classification of skills, maybe hard skill and soft skill could be changed to a new classification. So what do you think that we should do day by day, starting from tomorrow, from every day, to be ready to deal with this revolution?
Yeah, the skills and the tools is a very important question and area that we're looking into. I'm looking into. PMI is looking into. My view on this question, Valerio, is that first, if you don't have a PMP or a master in project management, but you do want to work in projects, you have to do it. It's the first step, is the basic, the foundation. So please, if you're thinking to work in projects, take the time, study, and certify yourself. More and more companies don't hire people to work in projects. if they're not certified. I don't hire anyone who's not certified. It doesn't mean that they will be the best project managers, but it tells that there's an intention to learn, to know best practice, to keep growing. So first step, always learn the technical part, what you call the hard skills, the scheduling, the estimation, the risk management. That part is a must, is the foundation. If you don't have that, it's very hard to be a good project manager. But that's not enough. As projects get more complex, as organizations get more complex, as there's need to deliver faster, project managers have to learn new skills. For me, the best framework which explains which skills we need to learn, on addition to hard and soft skills, the new classification for me for skills is what PMI calls the talent triangle, which has 3 dimensions. The first one is the technical project management skills. That's what I talked just now about, the PMP, and PMBOK and so on. So that's the basic, and that's a must-have. But then you need to learn about the business in which your project takes place. If you're working in a telecom company, you need to understand what's the strategy of the company, how's the competition doing, what are the priorities of the company, what matters to the top leaders, what matters to the shareholders. So this kind of good understanding, you don't need to be an expert in telecom, but you do need to understand the main drivers, so that you are able to connect your project with the main drivers, the strategic objectives, the things that matters to the company. So it's called business strategic skills. Those kind of skills, my own experience, I learned them by changing projects, doing projects in different areas of a company or different industries. And I also did an MBA, Master in Business Administration. It's a very good combination, MBA plus PMP. It's not a mandatory thing. It's just an idea and a personal belief that is a very good combination. There's other masters, of course, but that's the second dimension. The third dimension is leadership. And I think that project managers will soon be called project leaders. It's more about leading than managing today, especially because you're working with teams of people who are not reporting to you, who are working in different sides of the organization, and you need to still keep them together, keep them motivated, keep them working towards the team. So communication, persuasion, inspiration, communication, listening, all these kind of what you call soft skills, which I would put more into leadership. It's something that you will need to develop if you want to be a successful project manager in the project revolution time. These are a bit more difficult to learn. It's about knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and trying new things, getting some coaching, maybe mentoring, but that's absolutely an essential dimension of skills that you need to develop.
Well, I think that most of our listeners can find your considerations into their personal experience. For sure, this is my case. I work in the telco market, and for sure, I've seen growing during these years my involvement as project manager in the second aspect of the talent triangle that you have quoted, so the business strategy, because as project manager, we are more and more involved in the customer relation about their business, their strategy, in order to understand where the customer is going and what new opportunity you can have with the customer. So for sure, this is an aspect that we see in our everyday experience. And also the leadership aspect is very important, because we work with several people, so with a team of people coming from several functions, and we have to ask to somebody to do something. And this is not very easy because this person does not report to you, so you have no leverage in principle. So what you can rely is the leadership that you have gained, you have acquired within your project. So is a challenge that we have to face every day, and more and more we will have to work with.
Exactly. You see that in your job, and I think many of the listeners will relate to that too. Good point, Valerio. Yeah.
Yeah. So in order to better define or show this project revolution that we are facing, can you quote from your experience some examples of company or organization? For example, in the beginning, you quoted the example of recruiting that is no more hiring through job description, but through project roles. So that is very interesting and is very important for our profession. So can you quote also other examples of company or organization where this project revolution is causing changes that are can be an example also for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. There's a recent study from Accenture about the future of work, and they say in one of the questions of the research, they ask senior executives about the future of work, and 79% of all the response said that they all believe that the future of work will be project based. So I think that's another very good study which confirms a bit this evolution, and this is a study done with big companies, well-known companies. So I think that's a very big trend in terms of other companies who are investing big in projects. You can see that, for example, in Airbus. Airbus is the one who produces the plane. Everybody there receives a project management training, an extensive one. Procter and Gamble is the one who produces a lot of consumer goods in the supermarket. There, in order to progress in your career, you need to spend 2 years as a project manager. Everybody, it doesn't matter if you're in finance or in HR, it's expected that people experience and run projects to learn those additional skills. So these are two good examples of companies, but there's many others. If you look to China or Asia, the focus on projects is even stronger. What Chinese or Asian companies do in their projects is, first, they tend to dedicate resources to the projects 100%. So they've set a team, and that team just works on the project and the new product or new service, as opposed to Western companies where projects, it's an addition to your day-to-day job. So people work part-time and then they do projects. So Chinese, Asian companies, the ones I've studied, like Alibaba, first, they dedicate 100% resources. Second, they expect the team who develops the product, who carries out the project, that they run the outcome of the project. So that the people who have been building a new product, they sell it too. They become entrepreneurs. They become business managers. So it's a bit against what we've thought about projects so far, where you take the project from a business case or an already approved towards execution, and then you hand over to marketing or operations. The Asian people, they see it different, and the continue from finish to sell is part of the project manager's job. So I think that's a very interesting concept, which I think is going to happen in Western world too.
Yes, I think it's very interesting what you told about Asian companies and Asian approach, because maybe they are the last arrived on this type of approach of market, but they are anyway following the project revolution approach. So even though they do not have, let's say, past legacy approach, they follow this. So means that the project revolution that you are describing is a common trend that we will see more and more in the next years. So
yes,
unfortunately,
exactly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, our time is over. I think this interview was very, very interesting. I thank Antonio very much, and thank you also to our listeners, and goodbye to the next episode. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you, Valerio. Bye-bye to everyone.
Ok.
Bene, siamo alla fine. Un grazie ai nostri ospiti di oggi e a risentirci al prossimo podcast, normalmente un'edizione al mese, ascoltabile tramite iTunes, SoundCloud o scaricabile come file dal sito PMI Northern Italy Chapter www.pmi-nic.org. Ricordate di mandarci il feedback di gradimento, istruzioni sempre sul sito del PMI-NIC. Arrivederci candidamente!